And Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, very cool. Awesome. It's great. I'm glad for you to join. And just to reiterate this chat that you're using right now, throughout the presentation, feel free to write any questions or anything that you might have in mind in this chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer it for you. Feel free to interrupt me as I'm speaking. You can write your questions in there, and I'll make sure to address them. And then as we get to the end, I can open up some more Q&A as well. But it's great to have you here. Let's go ahead and talk about transitioning to tech. What about all the layoffs? If you're interested in UX design or even just any job in tech for that matter, but you're worried about the current state of that job market today, don't worry. We're going to dissect this and really understand what all of these headlines and numbers really mean. So let me kind of break down the agenda. It looks like we have somebody else join us. Just to kind of backtrack for the new joiner, my name is Jason. I'm one of the program managers here at Av Academy. Feel free to use the chat if you can. Let us know where you're joining from, and feel free to use it to ask any questions as well. But to talk about the bulk of this presentation today, we're going to talk about transitioning into tech, how to navigate all of those layoffs and really achieve your dreams. We're going to go through this with a pretty straightforward agenda. Shelda from New York City. Awesome. It's great to meet you. Thanks for joining. So we're going to go through, jump right into it. We're going to talk about, we gave our introductions. We're going to go into the truth about tech layoffs, talk a little bit about UX UI design and yourself and your future career and career prospects that you might have. We'll talk about the next steps, and then we'll break it down with some Q&A at the end. But as I mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat as I'm speaking, and I'll be sure to address anything that you guys have in mind. So let's jump right into this first agenda here, the truth about tech layoffs. And we'll kind of break down the numbers a little bit, right? So this is according to MarketWatch. And the numbers, can sound a little bit, eye-popping, but there were about 240,000 people that were laid off alone in 2023 for tech, right? Amazon had the largest company headcount downsize at 27,000, followed by Meta, Accenture, Google, and then other companies as well, somewhere in the 10 to 20K range. And then companies with layoffs were about 1,000. 1,100 just to count. So there were quite a few companies that laid off, and some pretty staggering numbers if you really take it from here. There's a few reasons why this happened, right? A couple of reasons: market conditions, right? When people returned to working in offices, the need for digital products kind of decreased slightly a little bit, and also the amount of people that you might have needed on your team could have gone down just a bit as well. Prices did increase during the pandemic. We've dealt with inflation. We've seen price increases around us, in our everyday lives. That caused some companies to have to tighten up their budgets just a little bit. And the industry matured, right? The industry began to level out after experiencing unprecedented growth, right? If we think back to those 2020 times during the pandemic, everything was going digital. It required a little bit of an increase in headcount to deal with that digital transition. Things are kind of leveling out and evening, and like anything, there's always going to be a slight correction. So as we can determine from these numbers, the tech industry grew very, very quickly, and it's now correcting itself. But what does that correction mean? So according to the SEC, these layoffs really don't tell the big picture, right? Layoffs are an eye-popping headline. If you go onto any news site and you see it, it's going to catch your attention. You're going to read their articles. It's really what's sort of standing out in the news today. But if you really break into these numbers, those layoffs only represent 8% compared to all of the new hires that these companies had, right? So Amazon increased their headcount by 743,000 in comparison to the 27,000 that they laid off. And that's, for all departments across the board, but tech is leading that surge. And most tech companies hired thousands more employees than they actually let go. So if we break down those numbers, compared to the layoffs that you see, the headlines that you see, there's a lot of hiring that's going on behind the scenes as well. And industries that are hiring, and we'll touch on UX designers here, is really all across the board, right? You see it in healthcare, food services, retail, e-commerce, education, finance, fashion, government, environmental, you name it. UX UI designers and tech employees are being hired across almost every single industry across the board, because almost every product we use has some sort of digital component to it. It's the world that we live in today. So with that said, employment is expected to grow, right? There's a 4.7 million increase in the amount of jobs that were expected, and tech is leading those numbers. The fastest growing industries are healthcare, social assistance at 12% growth, followed by manufacturing, shipping, education, food and beverage, and construction. And these are all industries that you might think traditionally don't really hire tech, or they're not the traditional Googles or Microsofts or Apples, or any of those tech company or startup companies that might come to mind when you think of tech. But all of these companies are using tech in one way or another, and that's what's leading this this charge in hiring, this charge in in tech innovation. And the companies that you can work for as a UX designer or somebody in tech really comes down to, as we said, it goes across all these different industries. And here's just a couple companies that might stand out: Johnson & Johnson in healthcare, Walgreens, Cigna, McDonald's, Pepsi, Domino's, Walmart, Target, H&M, right? Some of these traditional stores like McDonald's and Walmart and Target, like, you might think to yourself, what does this have to do with tech? But as we start going through this presentation, you'll notice the impact that tech employees and UX UI design in general is going to make on these organizations, and how they're going to make their products a little bit better. So this is, again, just kind of breaking down those numbers a little bit. If there's any questions, I'll pause here for just a minute. I know we threw a lot of numbers at you. We went through a lot of statistics. If there's any questions or anything I can clear up from those slides, please feel free to post it in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to address it. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and jump into our next item. All right, so I don't see any questions yet. If you do have them, again, feel free to post it, and I'll be more than happy to pause. But let's jump into, now that we know, what these numbers mean about these layoffs and how they're pretty minor compared to the amount of growth that we've seen. Thank you, David. I appreciate letting me know we're good to go. Yeah, as we know, the layoff numbers are pretty minor compared to the growth that these companies have actually had. Let's start looking at what a career as a UX designer means and how that relates to these layoffs and hiring in general. So UX UI design, what is this, right? So UX design really stands for user experience design. It's the process of creating products or services that provide a positive and meaningful experience for users. So it's more than just, sitting behind a computer, designing websites and applications. There's really no coding involved in this. What you do to create these good experiences is you actually listen to people. You talk to people, you listen to them, you figure out what it is that they want. You kind of uncover these hidden stories, these hidden needs and challenges that they're trying to say. And then you design this in an app or a website to make the experience better for them to use. And we've all been there before. We can all think of an application that we've opened up that it seems just like second nature, that as soon as we open up this app, we know exactly where to go and how to navigate through the pages and complete those tasks that we need to complete, because it was designed very, very well. And that's what a UX UI designer does, is they make sure that that experience is going to be good for you by listening to people and listening to their needs and challenges. So why is this so important in business? It's because having a good designer or a UX designer on the team is going to mean higher customer satisfaction, because you're listening to your users, you're listening to what it is that they want. It's contributing to that brand loyalty, because we all have brands that we love, that we go to for certain items or certain jobs that we need to be done, because we're loyal to them, because of that good experience that we have. And that's always going to lead to increased revenue, right? Good customer satisfaction, good brand loyalty, there's going to be better revenue for that company. UX UI design has been shown to grow a company 2 times faster than if they did not have designers on their team. And I know this number sounds crazy, but it's almost a 10,000% return on investment by incorporating UX UI design principles. Again, it's because you're getting closer to your users. If we think back to, if we were an early adopter of the iPhone, or an early adopter of an application or a website, 15, 20 years ago, think about how that has changed over the years, right? We've all used a website and application that has undergone some sort of changes or updates that has made it a little bit better. And that's because designers primarily came in, right? Technology comes out, and technology is a breakthrough. It makes our lives easier. It makes our lives better, but it doesn't always translate to a good experience for the user. And that's where designer comes in. As technology evolves and changes, we need designers to bridge that advancement in technology with a good user experience. And that's why you see that companies grow faster with design teams on board, and companies have a higher return on investment because they're making sure of that customer satisfaction. And just to kind of talk on this a little bit more, the main goal of a UX designer is just to make that life easier for that user, right? We need, if we think of Amazon or Uber or something along those lines, if we need to get a ride somewhere, we simply open up our phones, press a button, and the next thing we know, we have a car coming to us. So we need to order a new pair of socks. We can open up our phones, go on Amazon, and we have those socks being delivered, in some cases the same day or pretty shortly thereafter. And that's because the designer has made your life easier by making apps or websites easy to use, fun, and tailored to those user needs. And the reason we keep going back to these applications and websites that we've used before is because they ensure that they're retaining us as customers. And that's why designers are so important for our users. So with UX design, what can you do, right? You can innovate and create. You can explore your creativity in new ways that you might have never thought before. Even if you don't consider yourself a creative person or an artistic person, that's not what you need in design. In some cases, it's also about connecting with your users and understanding people, and then translating that into easy to use experiences. So that's one thing you can do. Designing new technology, right? We talked about technology is always this breakthrough, right? It doesn't matter what it is. There's going to be a breakthrough in technology that's changing the way that we live, but designers need to be on the forefront of that breakthrough to make sure that the technology is easy to use and exciting for people, right? Right now, we're seeing this huge breakthrough in AI. Almost every company wants to incorporate AI technologies into their products or services, but you're going to see a lot of companies fail to do that because they're not using design principles. AI is an amazing technology, but if it's wrong, or if it's confusing, or if it's not giving you a good experience of using it, you're not going to use it. So that's the amazing thing about being with UX UI design, is you're going to be on the forefront of that technology to making sure people are excited to use that technology. And then you can also work in diverse industries. You can work at any company, really anywhere, because you see technologies being incorporated in almost any company, product or service today. And you can choose your path, right? You can decide between, UX researcher, where you're really focused on finding people's needs. You can decide between a UI designer, where you're more focused on the way that the website or application looks from the interface. You can be a game designer. There's so many different paths that you can go down with UX design, even VR, virtual reality and augmented reality technologies as well. So that the options are pretty much limitless. So we've gone through a few different reasons of why UX design is a pretty cool industry. I would love to hear from you too, Shelda, David. Which one of these stands out to you, the most when you're thinking about tech or UX design? I would love to just hear your insights on that. So I'll go ahead and pause for a minute, and then we'll go ahead and jump into our next section. But again, feel free to post something in the chat about one of these options, which one really stands out the most for you and excites you the most. All right, so we'll go ahead. UX design needs you. David says, and I can go ahead and show this here. He says, to me, the interactive or research sounds great. Yeah, that's awesome. And then Shelda says, I'll go ahead and share hers. Innovate and create. David says he's a social person. That is awesome. So both of these were, both of your inputs are amazing, right? The research is one thing, right? To be able to create those interactive experiences, those good user experiences, we have to be able to do research and understand our users. And then innovate and create, same thing, Shelda, with what you're saying. By understanding what our users need, that's where the innovation comes from. So I love where your guys, minds are at right now. It sounds really exciting. And we'll continue talking a little bit more about UX design and why it needs you. So let me jump into it. Why should you change careers into UX design? It can make your life easier as well, right? You've understood now why companies need designers, why it's important for UX designers to make good experiences and better brand loyalty for those companies. But for you as an employee, it's going to make your life easier too. There's going to be more money to be made, right? Financial security. You can triple your salary in some cases with UX skills because it's always on that cutting edge of technology. There's more opportunities. Technology industry itself are not the only ones hiring tech employees. As we've seen, tech employees are being hired all across the board in almost every industry you can think of. And then there's more freedom. Oh, sorry about that. There's more freedom as well. You can work from home. You can go to the office. You can choose jobs with hours and flexible lifestyle if that's what you want. We have a question from Shelda. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Question, with the downsizing across the board, do you think that UX contracting or consulting is possible with employees? Absolutely. And that's a great question. And if that kind of goes to that more freedom part, if you're interested in becoming a contractor or doing consulting work in UX UI design, that is absolutely possible. There are a lot of companies out there that hire designers as contractors for specific projects, right? If they have a product that they're trying to make better for their users, there can be contract opportunities that you can go and work on for 3 months, 4 months, even up to a year on contract, specifically helping to make that one product better. In some cases, those contracts can lead to full-time employment. In other cases, you're free to leave those contracts whenever the project is finished. And then getting that contract experience, to your point, Shelda, about consulting, can absolutely help you with consulting skills. I think we may talk about this in other events, or if you browse our website, you might see some other stories about this. But freelancing is an absolutely popular path with UX UI design, where you can have your services to help small businesses, make their website a little bit more accessible, or startup companies make their apps, design their apps to be a little bit better of a user experience. So there's absolutely tons of possibilities. But I will say, to go back to the first part of that question on downsizing, just because there's downsizing at some of these larger companies doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to the design teams. And also there's huge growth in hiring on design teams from some of these smaller companies that are starting to regain their footing after a tough couple of years. So just to kind of go in there, the opportunities and the freedom, whichever one you're looking for, there's going to be a path for that in UX UI design. I hope I answered that question. If there's anything else or any follow-ups, please feel free to post it in the chat as well. But great question. Thank you. All right. So basically, don't let fear stop you from living, right? And then if you believe in yourself, you're going to be able to do this. UX UI design is not something that is very difficult to get into as long as you commit yourself to learning. And this is how we can help teach you that. And I can kind of talk through the actionable steps to get into UX UI design. And then I can share a couple of case studies on Avo Academy and how we teach our students. But basically, the first step is making that decision, right? You want to take everything that you've learned today, do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and then figure out if this is the opportunity that you deserve, that you want. From there, it's about getting that education, right? Find your trusted source, get the information, learn how to design. Our program at Avo Academy, we provide you that structure. We have mentorship throughout our program that can really help you learn the skills and change your career. From there, once you get that foundational skills, it's about building that portfolio. And portfolio is showcasing the skill sets that you've learned on a couple of different projects that you work on. At Av Academy, we have our students go through our foundations program, coming out with one full project to put on their portfolio. And by looking at that portfolio, you're going to be able to see the skills you've learned and the process that you've taken to go ahead and create that website or application. And then from there, once that portfolio is created, you then go through interviews, talk to people within your network, talk to people on LinkedIn, and that's where you can go ahead and get hired and really change your life, for forever. If this is an industry career choice that you want to make. What I want to do now is show you a little bit of Av Academy, go ahead and walk you through a case study of what these portfolios look like in our program. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. If you guys have any questions related to this presentation before I jump into that, please post it in the chat and I'll be more than happy to answer that for you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. I don't see any questions up yet. So to kind of talk a little bit about Av Academy's process, this is our website. Feel free to go on here and browse it. I'll share the links to all of this. But basically, what we'll offer is we're going to help you go through the path to get that first tech job. We have about a 90% placement rate. We're backed by a job guarantee. And this is the process that we go through to help you get that, right? It's a 3-step process. And and our average salary for our students that go through and follow this process are making about $85K per year in under a year as well. So the first step, again, is learning those basics with the foundations program. It's an 8 to 16 week program with unlimited mentorship that helps you start building that portfolio on your own personal project. No experience is needed for this whatsoever. You're going to learn along the way. From there, we have a secondary program called Career Jumpstart. This is a little bit longer in length. It's about 3 months. But here's where you get the opportunity to work on real client projects. So it could be a startup company or a small business or nonprofit that needs help with website design or app design. Or even UX research for that matter. You're going to work with other designers in the Career Jumpstart program. So you're going to be working on a team of other designers. And then that's also going to get added to your portfolio. It's more things to put on your resume. It's more projects to put on your portfolio. And then from there, you're going to go through 12 months of it can be up to 12 months, but a lot of times our students are doing this quicker in some cases of job search support. We're going to have interview prep for you, connections to hiring partners. And again, we're backed by that job guarantee as well. This is that 3-step process. Again, if any questions that you guys might have on this process, go ahead and post it in the chat and I'll be happy to answer it. What I do want to show you next is what that portfolio looks like and how you go from foundations to Career Jumpstart and build your portfolio. So I'll just pause for a minute in case you guys have questions. All right, cool. So this is one of our students, Patrick, and this is his portfolio. So you can see each of these is going to be a different UX design project that he worked on. You can see whether he was on a team or in some cases a sole UX UI designer. So our foundations program, you'll be working as a sole designer, and this is what it's going to look like. This is how you kind of go through the project. So this is what he did for foundations. It was a platform that assisted with organizing and maintaining tabletop events. So he found his problem, right? UX design is about solving problems and making things a better experience for people. So he found this problem with, some people like to organize, collect and have games for their guests. Some prefer different style of games. So how can we make it a little bit more organized and more tailored to the audience that you have for the event that you're hosting? And then as you start to go through this portfolio, you can see this is some screenshots of the app that he created. But the cool thing about portfolios is it really tells the story of how you created something like this. So it goes through the entire design process of discovering the user needs, ideating ideas on what you want to design, designing those ideas, testing them, and then handing them off to become developed. So you can see we're going through, he did some research, did some analysis on some competitors, talked to some people, getting some surveys and interviews, and taking all this information from people that he had surveys from, interviews from, the competitive analysis, and go ahead and mapping out all of those findings that he was gathering from that UX research, and then going and creating different types of ideas, right? So this is a sitemap. This is how you kind of map out how that app is going to work through the different pages. That translates to different types of flow charts. And then now you can start to see the beginnings of that design starting, right? This is sort of just very, minor sketches, just some ideas that come to mind after you gather all that research. How can we turn this into a digital experience? It's always helpful to kind of sketch some things out. And then you can see it growing from there, right? We have a little bit of what we call low fidelity wireframes. There's no color. It's, very, basic, but just to kind of get the idea, right? Now you can start to see the color kind of getting added here, some more text getting put on the screens. This is as you go through that design. And then here is what the eventual app comes out and looks like. And this is a true prototype that you can actually go and test with some users and see how they like it. And that's the coolest part about this, is after you go ahead and do the testing, you can then reflect back on what you have found and go ahead and make those adjustments within your final prototype as well. So it's a really cool process. This is what you learn through our foundations program. You work on a project of your choosing, something that you might be interested in or a hobby. It's a really great way to learn the skills and understand how to apply them. And then from there, if you're interested in Career Jumpstart, I can show you the difference of what these projects look like. You'll work on teams for a project that is not of your choosing, that is of a client. So it's kind of going to give you that, what you were talking about before, Shell, that contracting or consulting experience. And this is a client that Patrick worked on with a team of other designers. And this is what that portfolio will look like. So very similar. You can see this wasn't an application. They were more focused on making a website. But you can see they did, the start of their research was a kickoff call. So you can see all of the members of the team on the call. They talked with the client. They understood what they wanted. And then they went and conducted some competitive analysis, some other research, and then eventually translated those ideas into those wireframes that we were showing, and then eventually a full-on design and prototype, and then eventually testing that prototype. And developer handoff basically means taking what you've designed, handing it off to developers who are going to implement that code and make it a real functioning product. But this is why design is so important, because before developers go ahead and make that a product, it's your job to understand the user needs, the challenges, and create that good experience so that developers can go ahead and bring that to life for you. But basically, that's the difference between Foundations is working on your own versus Career Jumpstart working with a team. So just a two-step process there. I'll go back to the presentation. That's pretty much it for what we have. I hope we helped you understand a little bit more about the tech layoffs and why it's nothing to really worry about too much today, especially with the growth that we've seen in hiring and the tech industry in general. I hope you understand a little bit better about UX UI design and then Avocademy's process if you're interested. This QR code, if you scan it, you can go ahead and schedule a call with one of our career advisors. Oh, sorry about that. If you are on your phone, I will go ahead and share a link that you can click on and schedule. And our career advisors are amazing. They'll talk you through, any logistical things of the program. They will answer any questions you might have, related to this presentation or just design in general. Shelda, I see you have a question there. Are there any specific tools for the dev handoff or sprints discussed? So that's something that we'll touch a little bit more on in the program. What the design tool that we teach, which is called Figma, and I'll go ahead and write it in there for you. I'll just put design tool. They have a really cool feature that they just implemented not too long ago. It's been a little bit less than a year, which is called dev mode. So when you are working, as a designer and you are working with developers, your designs are going to be in Figma, depending on the company. But in some cases, you're going to be designing things in Figma, and then you can switch to this feature called dev mode, where they can see all of those aspects of your design and translate them into code. So that's a pretty cool way that you can think about how your designs will translate. And then in terms of sprints, that's not something that you would really have to worry about yet. We do teach on sprints a little bit in the agile methodologies within our foundations program, but it's better to learn the entire design process holistically, because just so you can understand all parts of it. And then when you do go and translate into your career, those parts of that design process do work in sprints, to what you're saying, right? You might be focused on UX research in one case, but then in a next case, you're working on a sprint on, design or testing or prototyping. So it does kind of jumble up around a little bit, but it's great to learn the design process kind of holistically first. And then you can kind of understand how to break it down from there. David, I was getting nervous, about 45% in on foundations, mostly just overthinking. Oh, awesome. No, I appreciate that, David. Thank you for being honest and sharing, your thoughts on that. I definitely recommend reaching out to one of our career advisors. Use the link I sent or scan this QR code. They will talk you through more information about the program and can answer any other questions you have. You can also explore us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. You can go to our website as well. But definitely talk to our career advisors. It's a quick 20-minute call. You'll get all the information you need to go ahead and make a decision there. But we do hope to speak with you sometime soon, David, because I know we can answer some questions and help you, with some of that overthinking and questions you might have. But that's a great, great insight. Thanks for sharing that with me. So any other questions, David, Shota, if you want to, ask anything else, I'll hang on for another minute, and happy to answer any other questions that come up. Awesome. And then, yeah, David, if you want to, I know I wrote in there Figma, which I sent for Shada's question, but if you want to take a look at it and just to get an understanding of what the design tool is that we use through the program, I think it's a really cool way to to see how easy it is to kind of pick up on these skills and learn design. So it's a really user-friendly tool, and you can make some awesome prototypes and designs with it. So it's a fun thing to go ahead and check out. But awesome. I'm glad that you guys are, good. I really appreciate your participation tonight, right? It's one thing to have you guys on this call, but for you to constantly ask questions and, share your insights makes this a much more enjoyable, discussion. So I'm glad I got to answer some questions, share some insights with you, walk you through some App Academy success stories. And again, we really hope to see you guys on those career advisor calls, and hopefully we can, partner with you and help you guys into a career change that you might really be interested in. So again, thank you both for your time. You've been awesome. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you can email us or you can schedule that call. Have a great rest of your evening. It was great getting to spend some time with you both. Take care.